Sharadava Nalalida Loka Pranaya Karuna Ghana Ganatvam Sham Sharadava Nalalida Loka Pranaya Karuna Gana Ganatam Praptasa Kalyana Gunanavasya Bande Gura Shri Charanarabindam Praptasa Kalyana Gunanavasya Bande Gura Shri Vande Guru Shri Charanarabindam Vande Guru Shri Charanarabindam Vande Guru Shri Charanarabindam Vande Guru Shri Charanarabindam Mahaprabhu ki Tanalita Gita Vaditramadhyam Manasurasena Gita Vaditramadhyam Romanchakam Pasru Taranga Bhajo Vande Guru Shri Charanarabindam Shri Vigrahara Dhana Nityanana Shringaratanama Diramarjanado Dhana Nityanana Juktasya Bhaktamsya Neyunjatapi Vande Guru Shri Charanarabindam Vande Guru Shri Charanarabindam Chaturvidha Shri Bhagavat Prasada Satana Triptan Hari Bhakta Shangan Chaturvidha Shri Bhagavat Prasada Satana Triptan Hari Bhakta Shangan Kritaiva Tripten Bhajata Shadeva Vande Guru Shri Charanarabindam Vande Guru Shri Charanarabindam Vande Guru Shri Charanarabindam Vande Guru Shri Charanarabindam Shiradikama Dhavayara Para Madhurya Lila Gunarupanamna Shiradikama Dhavayara Para Madhurya Lila Gunarupanamna Pratikshana Swa Dhanalalupasya Vande Guru Shri Charanarabindam Vande Guru Shri Charanarabindam Nekunjayono Ratikeli Siddhai Jajali Bheri Jukte apekshaniya nikundayo Rajadi Virjukti Tatrati Daksha Ativalabhasya Vande Guru Shri Charanara Vrindam Sakhyat Dharitena Shamasta Shashri Uktas Tathava Gataiva Sadhavi Sakhyat Dharitena Shashri Kintu Prabhoja Priya Eva Tasya Vande Guru Shri Charanar Vrindam Yasya Prasada Bhagavat Prasado Yasya Prasadam Nagati Kutapi Yasya Dhyayam tuvam stasya yasastri sandhyam Vande Guru Shri Charanarvindam Dhyayam tuvam stasya yasastri sandhyam Vande Guru Shri Charanarvindam Vande Guru Shri Charanarvindam Vande Guru Shri Charanarvindam Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prishtaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swamin Iti Namine Nama Namaste Sarasvati Deve Gauravane Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunnavadi Pachatare Shatarine Namaste Nirvishesha Shunnavadi Pachatare Shatarine Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasari Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadara Shivasari Gaur Bhakta Vrinda. Nityananda Gadadara Shivasari Gaur Bhakta Vrinda. Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadara Shivasari Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Gadadara Shivasari Gaur Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Rama Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Hari Bol. Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram 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 Hare Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram 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 Hare Hare. Hare Ram 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 Hare Hare. Gaura Pramanande.
Namamishwaram Satchidanandarupam Lasat Kundalam Gokule Vrajamanam Namamishwaram Satchidanandarupam Lasat Kundalam Gokule Vrajamanam Yashoda Viyolukaladhavamanam Param Rishamadhyanta Todrutya Gopya
Yashoda
Viyolukaladhavamanam Param Rishamadhyanta Todrutya Gopya Rudanta Muhurnetra Yugmam Rujantam करं भोजयुग्मेन सातङ्कनेत्रम्
रुदन्तामुन्नेत्रम्
युग्मं रुजन्तं करं भोजयुग्मेन सातङ्कनेत्रम् मुहुस्वाशकम्पात्रिरेखाङ्ककण्ठा स्थितग्रैवं दामोदरं भक्तिबद्धाम् मुहुस्वाशकम्पात्रिरेखाङ्ककण्ठा स्थितग्रैव दामोदरं भक्तिबद्धाम् इति दृक्स्वलीलाभिरानन्दकुण्डे स्वघोषं निमज्जन्तमाख्यापयन्तम् स्वलीलाभिरानन्दकुण्डे स्वघोषं निमज्जन्तमाख्यापयन्तम् तदीयेषिताग्नेषु भक्त्यजितत्वम् पुनः प्रेमतास्तां शतावृत्तिवन्दे तदीयेषिताग्नेषु भक्त्यजितत्वम् पुनः प्रेमतास्तां शतावृत्तिवन्दे वरं देवमोक्षं न मोक्षवदिं वा न शन्यवृणेऽहं वरेष्यदपिह मोक्षं न मोक्षवदिं वा न शन्यवृणेऽहं वरेष्यदपिह इदं देवपूर्णदगोपालबालम् सदा मे मनस्य विरष्टमिन्धनैः इदं देवपूर्णदगोपालबालम् सदा मे मनस्य विरष्टं किमनैः इदं ते मुखाम्भोजम् अत्यन्तनीले वृतं कुन्तलैः स्निग्धरक्तस्य गोप्या मुहुशुम्भितं बिम्बरक्तधरा मे मनस्य विरष्टमलं लक्ष्यलाभै मुहुशुम्भितं बिम्बरक्तधरा मे मनस्य विरष्टमलं नमो देव दामोदरानन्त विष्णु प्रसीद प्रभो दुःखजलब्धिमग्नम् अनन्त विष्णु प्रसीद प्रभो दुःखजलब्धिमग्नम् कृपादृष्टिवृष्ट्यातिदिनं भतानु गृहाणेश मामग्नमिदयक्षिदृश्या कृपादृष्टिवृष्ट्यातिदिनं भतानु गृहाणेश मामग्नमिदयक्षिदृश्या कुबेरात्मजबद्धमुतैव यद्वा त्वया मोचिता भक्तिभाजुकृतौ च कुबेरात्मजबद्धमुतैव यद्वा त्वया मोचितो भक्तिभाजुकृतौ च तथा प्रेम भक्तिं स्वकमे प्रयच्छ न मोक्षे ग्रहो मे स्थितामोदरेह तथा प्रेम भक्तिं स्वकमे प्रयच्छ नमस्ते सुदाम्ने स्फुरदीप्तिदाम्ने त्वदीयोदराय विश्वशदाम्ने नमस्ते सुदाम्ने स्फुरदीप्तिदाम्ने त्वदीयोदराय विश्वस्य धाम्ने नमो राधिकाय त्वदीयप्रियाय नमो नन्तलीलाय देवाय तुभ्यं 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 हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे कृष्णा कृष्णा हरे 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 राम 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 हरे 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 कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare Jaya Radha Damodara Radha Damodara Shri Radhe Jaya Radha Nila Madhav Radha Nila Madhav Shri Radhe Jaya Jagannatha Jaya Baladeva Jaya Subhadra Nada Jaya Baladeva Jaya Subhadra Jaya Sitaram Jaya Lakshman Hanuman जय लक्ष्मी नरसिंह जय भक्त प्रहलाद लक्ष्मी नरसिंह जय भक्त प्रहलाद निताय गौर हरि बोल निताय गौर हरि बोल जय जय प्रभुपाद 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 जय जय प्रभुपाद दामोदराष्टकम की जय
जय विश्वपाल परम प्रभाजकाचार्य सूत्र सरशिष्यमाद इसकोन प्रतिष्ठा विविधि सांस्थापक वैष्णव श्रमणि गौर प्रियजन कृष्ण प्रेम भक्ति दाता पतित पावन His divine grace अभय चरविंद भक्ति वेदांत स्वामी महाराज शील प्रभुपाद की जय श्री गौरी गुरु वर्गपति उद्धार की जय श्री रूप सनातन भद्र गुनाथ जीव गोपाल भक्त दास गुण सदगोस्वामी प्रभु की जय नामाचार्य श्री हरिदास ठाकुर जी की जय अनंत कोटि वैष्णववृंद की जय प्रेम से कहो श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री द्वैत गदाधर शिवासारि गौर भक्तवृंद की जय जय परम दयाल से नित्यानंद प्रभु की जय प्रेम नाम संकीर्तन एक जनक प्रेम पुरुषोत्तम श्री सच्चिदानंद स्मान गौरंग चैतन्य महाप्रभु गौर हरि महावरण अवतार की जय गोलोकेर प्रमधान नम संकीर्तन जय की जय जुग धर्म हरे कृष्ण महामंत्र की जय बृहदांग ट्रांसलेटर बुक डिस्ट्रीब्यूशन सेवा की जय शिष्य राधा कृष्ण गोप गोपना राधा कुंज श्याम कुंज गिरिराज गोवर्धन की जय श्री ब्रजभूमि वृंदावन मथुर धाम की जय तेलोच शिष्य राधा नीलाव की जय यशोदा दामोदर कार्तिक मास की जय श्री मायापुर नवद्वीप के चक्रधाम की जय परम करुण श्री गौर निताय की जय श्री पुरुषोत्तम क्षेत्र जगन्नाथपुरी धाम की जय श्री जगन्नाथ स्वामी बलदेव प्रभु श्रीमाती सुभद्रा देवी सुदर्शन चक्र भगवान की जय भक्ति सर्वविघ्न विनाशना करण सिंगरे भगवान की जय गंगा माई जमुना माई की जय तुलसी महारानी वृंद देवी भक्ति देवी की जय बोलो श्रीमती राधा रानी की समवेत भक्तवृंद की निताय गौरी प्रेमानंदे all glories to the assembled bodies all glories to the assembled bodies all glories to the assembled bodies all glories to Shri Guru Shri Gauranga
नमस्ते नरसिंहाय
Jaya Silatangka Nakalaya
Yato Narsimha Parato Narsimha
Ito Nishinga Parato Nishinga
Yato Yato Yami Tato Narsimha
Jaya Jata Jata Jami Tato Nishinga
Mai Narsimha Hidaye Narsimha
Bahir Nishinga Rudaye Nishinga
Mai Narsimha Hidaye Narsimha
Bahir Nishinga Rudaye Nishinga
Narasingha Madim Charanam Prapade
Narasingha Madim Sharanam Prapade
Kavakara Kamalavarena Adbhuta Singam Lalita Hiranyakashipu Kanubingam Keshavadita Narahari Rupa Jaja
Kabakara kamalabare enakam adabutta shringa dalita iranyakashipu kanavinga kesabadrita narariropa jai jagadisha re jai jagadisha
ईशवदीता नरहरिरूपा जय जगदीश हरे जय जगदीश हरे जय जगदीश हरे
Sabadrita narariropa jai jagadisha
नरसिंहदेव जय नरसिंहदेव जय नरसिंहदेव जय नरसिंहदेव
jaya nisingade nisingade jaya nisingade
जय प्रहलाद महाराज जय प्रहलाद महाराज जय प्रहलाद महाराज जय प्रहलाद महाराज
jaya pralanara jaya pralanara jaya pralanara
नित्या गौरा हरि बोल हरि बोल हरि बोल नित्य गौर हरि बोल
Haribo, 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 Haribo. Shri Vrindai Tulasi Bai Priyayai Keshava Satya Vishnu Bhakti Pradidevi Shatavatai Namo Namaha. Vrindai Tulasi Bai Priyayai Keshava Satya Vishnu Bhakti Pradidevi Satavatai Namo Namaha. Vrindai Tulasi Bai Priyayai Keshava Satya Krishna Bhakti Pradidevi Satavatai Namaha. Shrimati Tulsi Maharani Vrinda Devi Ki. Who sing you think? Who sing? These are the kids. They're all going. Okay. Mataji, want to sing? Tulsi?
Namo Namaha Tulasi Krishna Priyasi Namo Namaha
Tulasi Krishna Priyasi Namo Namo
Radha Krishna Seva Prabhu Te Abhilasi
Radha Krishna Seva Pavam Eya Bilasi.
Radha Krishna Seva Pavo Abhilasi.
Radha Krishna Seva Pavo Eya Bilasi.
Jai tumhara sharana loy, tara vancha purna hoy.
Tumhara sharanala Karavancha Purna.
Kripa kori koro tare Vrindavanavasi.
Tumi kripa kori karatare
Morae abhilas, vilas kunje diyovas.
Morae avila Vilas kunje diyava.
Nayane heri vosara, jugala ruparasi.
Aminayane Rivasada Jugala Ruparasi.
Any vedana dharo, sakiranugata khoro.
Ene Vedana Dara Katakara.
Seva adhikara diye, koro nijadasi.
Sebayari Karadiye Karani Jadasi.
Dina Krishna dasi khoi, ye namora hoy.
Dina Krishna Daseka Eyena Mora.
Shri Radha Govinda preme sadai navasi.
Shri Radha Govinda Preme Sada.
Yani kani cha papane, Brahma hatyari kani cha. Tani tani pranakshanti, pradakshina pare pare.
Jani Kani Sapapani Brahma Hatyadi Kani Sa. Tani Tani Prana Santi Pradakina Pade Pade.
Yani kani cha papani, Brahma hatyari kani cha. Tani tani pranakshanti, pradakshina pare pare.
Tani Kani Sapapani Brahma Hatyadi Kani Sa. Tani Tani Prana Santi Pradakina Pade Pade.
Yani kani cha papani, Brahma hatyari kani cha. Tani tani pranakshanti, pradakshina pare pare.
Tani Kani Sapapani Brahma Hatyadi Kani Sa. Tani Tani Prana Santi Pradakina Pade Pade.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama
Maharani Jaya Vrinda Devi. Nitai Gaura Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Nitai Gaura Hari Bol.
Nitai Gaura Hari Bol,
Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Nitai Gaura Hari Bol. Shrimati Tulsi Maharani Vrinda Devi ki jai.
Jai. Shri Vrindai Tulasi Bai Priyai Kesava Satya Vishnu Bhakti Prade Devi Sattvatai Namo Namah. Vrindai Tulasi Bai Priyai Kesava Satya Vishnu Bhakti Prade Devi Sattvatai Namo Namah. Vrindai Tulasi Devi Priyai Kesava Satya Krishna Bhakti Prade Devi Sattvatai Namo Namah. Jai Shrimati Tulasi Maharani Vrinda Devi ki jai. Oh Tulasi, beloved Krishna, I bow before you again and again. My desire to obtain the service of Shri Radha and Krishna. Whoever takes shelter of you has wishes fulfilled. Bestowing your mercy upon him, you make him resident of Vrindavan. My desire is that you also grant me a residence, pleasure groves of Shri Vrindavan Dham. Thus within my vision of always behold the beautiful pastimes of Radha and Krishna. I beg you to make me a follower of Kavadhyamsas of Raj. Please give me the privilege of devotional service and make me your own maid servant. This very fallen and lowly servant of Krishna praise. May I always sing love Shri Radha and Govinda. Srimati Tulsi Maharani Vrinda Devi ki jai. Shri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu Sikhastakam ki jai. Chaito Darpana Majanam Bhava Madhavani Vapanam Shri Akari Vachandrika Vitaranam Vidya Vadu Jivanam Anandam Buddhivardhanam Pratipadam Purnamata Sadhanam Sarvatmasnam Param Parajayate Shri Krishna Sankirtanam Nam Namakari Baudha Nija Sarva Shaktis Tatra Arpita Niyamita Shmarane Nakala Etadrusitava Kripaya Bhagavan Namate Duraivam Visishamiyajani Nanurada Narabhisani Chena Tarorapi Saishnuna Amani Namana Dena Kirtaniya Sadahari Nadhanam Najanam Nasundarim Kavitamba Jagadishakamaye Mama Janmani Janmanishwari Bhavatar Bhakti Raitu Kitvai Oinanda Tanuja Kinkaram Paritama Visame Bhavam Buddho Kripaya Tava Pada Pankaja Stita Dhuli Sadrisham Vichintaya Nayanam Galara Shudharaya Vadanam Gadagadharudhaya Gira Pulakairin Chitam Vapukara Tavanam Agrahane Bhavisyati Jogaitam Nimishena Chakshusha Pravrushaitam Sunyaitam Jagata Sarvam Govinda Viraye Name Asli Shava Padaratam Pinastumam Adarshanar Marmahatam Karotuva Jatha Tathava Viradhatulam Pato Mat Pranathastu Saivana Para Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Shri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu Shri Krishtakam Ki Jai. Namo Mahavarannaya Krishna Prema Pradayate Krishnaya Krishna Chaitanya Namine Gora Tvishnava Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prestaya Bhutale Shrimate Bhakti Vedanto Swaminiti Namine Namaste Saraswati Devam Gauravani Pracharine Nivishesha Shunnavadi Pasatari Satarine. Glory to the Shri Krishna Sankirtana, which cleanses the heart of all the dust accumulated for years and extinguishes the fire of conditional life with repeated birth and death. This Sankirtan moment is the prime benediction for humanity at large, because it spreads the rays of the benediction moon. It is the life of all transcendental knowledge. It increases the ocean of transcendental bliss and enables us to fully taste the nectar for which we're always anxious. O my Lord, your holy name alone can render all benediction to living beings, and thus you have hundreds and millions of names like Krishna and Govinda. In these transcendental names, you have invested all your transcendental energies. There are not even hard and fast rules for chanting these names. O my Lord, out of kindness, you enable us to easily approach you by holy names, but I'm so unfortunate that I have no attraction for them. One should chant the holy name of the Lord in a humble state of mind, thinking oneself lower than straw in the street. One should be more tolerant than a tree, devoid of all sense of false prestige, and should be ready to offer all respect to others. In such state of mind, one can chant the holy name of the Lord constantly. O Almighty Lord, I have no desire to accumulate wealth, nor do I desire beautiful women, nor do I want any number of followers. I only want your causeless devotional service, birth after birth. O son of Maharaj Nanda Krishna, I am your eternal servitor. Yet some or other I am fallen in this ocean of birth and death. Please pick me up from this ocean of death and place me as one of the atoms at your lotus feet. O my Lord, when will my eyes be decorated with tears of love flowing constantly when I chant your holy name? When will my voice choke up? And will the hairs of my body stand on end at the recitation of your name? O Govinda, feeling your separation, I am considering a moment to be like 12 years or more. Tears are flowing from my eyes like torrents of rain, and I'm feeling all vacant in the world in your absence. I know no one but Krishna as my Lord, and he should remain so, even if he handles me roughly by his embrace, or makes me broken-hearted by not being present before me. He is completely free to do anything and everything, for he is always my worshipful Lord, unconditionally. Shri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu Shri Krishtakam Ki Jai. There are 10 offenses in the matter of chanting the holy name of the Lord that should be avoided. They are as follows. 1. To blaspheme the devotee who dedicate their life for propagating the holy name of the Lord. 2. To consider the names of demigods, the Lord Shiva and Lord Brahma, to be equal to or independent of the name Lord Vishnu. 3. To disobey the orders of the spiritual master. 4. To blaspheme the very scriptures or scriptures and pursuance of Vedic version. 5. To consider the glories of chanting Hare Krishna to be imagination. 6. To give some interpretation to the holy name of the Lord. 7. To commit sinful activities on the strength of chanting the holy name of the Lord. 8. To consider the chanting of Hare Krishna as one of the auspicious ritualistic activities which are often Vedas as fruitive activity, Karma Kanda. 9. To instruct the faithless person about the glories of holy name. And 10. To not have complete faith in chanting the holy names, and to maintain material attachments even after understanding so many instructions on this matter. It also an offense to be inattentive while chanting. Every devotee who claims to be Vaishnava must carefully guard against these 10 offenses in order to quickly achieve the desired success, Krishna Prema. Now let us offer our most humble obeisance unto all the Vaishnavas, devotees of the Lord. They are just like desired trees. They can fulfill the desire of everyone, and they are full of compassion for the fallen conditioned souls. Jaivancha kalpatarubhyacha kripa sindhu vevacha paritanam pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo namo namaha. Jai Ananta Koti Vaishnavrinda ki jai.
Namaste, Nirvishesha Sunyavadi Paskati. Shri Guru Pranama prayers ki jai. Ishvara Bhagavatasya Daya Chakshus Unmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Chaitanya Manovistam Sapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Swapadantikam Pandeham Shri Guru Shri Jitahapati Kamalan Shri Gurun Vaishnavamsha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Ragunatan Vitam Tam Sajivam Saidvaitam Savadutam Vijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Param Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakam Vishnu Padaya Krishna Krishna Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swami Namine Namaste Saraswati Devi Gaurani Charine Nirvishesha Sunyavadi Pasattva Satarine Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Krishna Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Saraswati Namine Shri Vaishnavani Devi Dayitaya Vibhave Krishna Sambandha Vijnana Dayine Prabhave Namaha Madhuyujnanandanya Shri Gurendra Bhaktida Shri Guru Karuna Shakti Vigrahaya Namastute Namaste Nirvani Shri Murtaye Dinatarine Rupa Nuga Virudapa Abhisidanta Dvantaharine Guru Kishoraya Shakshadvairagya Murtaye Vipralambara Sambodhe Padambujayate Namaha Namo Bhakti Vinodaya Sachitananda Namine Guru Shakti Swarupaya Rupanuga Varayate Guru Vir Baba Bhumistvam Nirdesta Sajjana Priya Vaishnava Sarvabhauma Shri Jagannatayate Namaha Vanchakalpa Turubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhyevacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Namo Mahavadanyaya Krishna Prema Pradayate Krishna Krishna Chaitanya Namne Guru Tuse Namaha Panchatattvatmakam Krishnam Bhaktarupa Swarupakam Bhaktavataram Bhaktakam Namami Bhakta Saktikam Hey Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandhu Jagatpate Gopisha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Jayatam Sudator Pangur Mama Manda Matir Gati Matsarva Swapadambujo Radha Madana Mohano Divyad Vrindaranya Kalpadruma Dahara Shimad Nagara Simhasanastito Shimad Radha Shila Govinda Devo Prestali Bihi Sevya Manusmarami Shiman Rasa Rasa Rambi Vamsivata Tatastita Karsan Venuswaner Gopir Gopinatakstriyestuna Tapta Kanchana Gorangi Raje Vrindavaneshwari Rishabhanustate Devi Pranamami Hare Priye Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Srivasadi Gaur Bhaktivinoda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Shri Brahma Samhita Ki Jai Ishvara Parama Krishna Sachitananda Vigraha Nadi Radhe Govinda Sarvakarana Karanam Chintamani Prakara Satma Sakapa Vriksha Laksha Vritesha Suradmira Vipaliantam Lakshmi Sahasra Satasambrahma Sevyamanam Govinda Madi Purusham Tamaham Bhajami Venam Kvanantam Aravinda Dalayataksham Parhavatam Samasitam Buddha Sundarangam Kandarpa Koti Kamaniya Vishesha Sobham Govinda Madi Purusham Tamaham Bhajami Alola Chandra Savanabhasya Mansi Ratnam Gadam Pranay Keli Kalavilasam Shamam Jibanga Lalita Nita Prakasam Govinda Mahadi Purisham Tamaham Bhajami Angani Yasya Sakalendriya Vritti Manti Pasyanti Pantika Yanti Chiram Jaganti Ananda Chinmaya Sadujvala Vigrahasya Govinda Mahadi Purisham Tamaham Bhajami Advaitam Achyutam Anadim Ananta Rupam Adyam Purana Purusam Navayovanam Cha Vedesa Durlabham Adurlabham Atma Bhakto Govinda Amadi Purisham Tamaham Bhajami Pantasta Koti Satavatsara Sampragam Yova Yoratapi Manaso Manipungama Brahmanam Sopyasti Yat Prapadasimya Vichintya Tatve Govindam Adi Purisham Tamaham Bhajami Ekopya Sura Chaitum Jagadanda Kotim Yaschakti Rasti Jagadanda Chayayadanta Andanta Rasta Paramana Chayanta Rastam Govindam Adi Purisham Tamaham Bhajami Yat Bhava Bhavita Dio Manajasta Taiva Samprapya Rupa Mahima Sanayana Bhusa Suktarya Meva Nigama Pratitastuvanti Govindam Adi Purisham Tamaham Bhajami Ananda Chinmaya Rasa Pratibhavita Vistabirya Eva Nijarupa Tayakalabi Goloka Eva Nivasata Kilatma Bhuto Govindam Adi Purisham Tamaham Bhajami Premanjana Charita Bhakti Vilochanena Santaksa Deva Hidesu Vilokayanti Yam Shama Sundaram Achintya Gunaswarupam Govindam Adi Purisham Tamaham Bhajami Ramadi Murti Sukalani Menitista Nana Avatara Makarod Bhuvanesa Kintu Krishna Swayam Samabhavat Paramam Pramam Yo Govindam Adi Purisham Tamaham Bhajami Yasya Prabhapavato Jagananda Koti Kotis Vasesa Vasudadi Vibhuti Binam Tad Brahman Niskalam Anantamasesa Bhutam Govindam Adi Purisham Tamaham Bhajami Mayahi Yasya Jagadanda Satani Sute Dragunya Tad Visaya Veda Vitayamanam Sattva Valambi Parasatvam Visuddha Sattvam Govindam Adi Purisham Tamaham Bhajami Ananda Chinmaya Rasat Matayamanasu Praninam Patifalam Smaratam Upetya Lila Yatena Bhuvanani Jaya Jasram Govindam Adi Purisham Tamaham Bhajami Goloka Evanimisa Namni Nijidani Telechitasya Devi Maheswari Dama Sutesu Tesu Tete Prabhavini Chaya Vitas Jayena Govindam Adi Purisham Tamaham Bhajami Sistista Te Pralaya Sadava Sakti Reka Chayevi Yasya Bhuvanani Vibharti Durga Ichana Rupam Abhyasya Chitesta Tesa Govindam Adi Purisham Tamaham Bhajami Shiram Yata Dadi Vikara Visesi Yoga Sanjayate Nahitata Pritakasti Hetu Yasambhutama Pitata Samapaitikar Yat Govindam Adi Purisham Tamaham Bhajami Departure Vedasantaram Abhipetya Dipayate Vivita Hetu Samana Dharma Yastadri Gev Hicha Vishnutaya Vibhati Govindam Adi Purisham Tamaham Bhajami Yakarna Narnava Jaleba Jisma Yoga Nidramananta Jagadanda Saroma Kopa Adhara Saktam Avalambya Param Samurtim Govindam Adi Purisham Tamaham Bhajami Asyaika Nisvasita Kalamata Avalambya Jivanti Loma Villaja Jagadanda Nata Vishnu Mahansa Yasya Kalabi Seso Govindam Adi Purisham Tamaham Bhajami Basmanya Tasma Sakalesana Jesu Teja Sriyam Kiyat Prakatayat Apitat Pratat Brahmaya Isha Jagadanda Vidana Karta Govindam Adi Purisham Tamaham Bhajami Yat Pada Palava Yugam Vinidaya Kumbha Dvande Pranama Samayesa Ganadi Raja Vignam Vihantam Alavasya Jagatrayasya Govindam Adi Purisham Tamaham Bhajami Agnir Mahika Ganamambu Marudisasya Kalas Tatma Manasiti Jagatrayani Yasmad Bhavanti Vibhavanti Visanti Yamcha Govindam Adi Purisham Tamaham Bhajami Yaschak Suresa Savitaj Sakalagrahanam Yaja Samasta Suramurti Sesa Teja Yasyaga Yabramati Sambrata Kalachakro Govindam Adi Purisham Tamaham Bhajami Dharmota Papa Nichaya Sutestapamsi Brahma Dikita Patagavate Sajiva Yadata Matra Vibhava Prakata Prabhava Govindam Adi Purisham Tamaham Bhajami Yasvindra Gopa Matavendra Mahosva Karma Bandhan Rupa Falabhajana Matanoti Karmani Nirdhati Kintucha Bhakti Bhajam Govindam Adi Purisham Tamaham Bhajami Yam Kroda Kama Sahaja Pranayadi Biti Vatsaya Mohakar Gaurava Sevya Bhava Sanchintya Tasya Sadvisin Tanamapurete Govindam Adi Purisham Tamaham Bhajami Shriya Kanta Kanta Parama Purusha Kalpataravo Duma Bhumish Chitamani Ganama Itoyama Tam Kataganam Natyam Gamanam Apivansi Priyasaki Chiranandam Jyoti Parama Pitada Swadhyama Pichasa Yatra Siradabi Sravati Surabi Biasta Sumaha Nimesa Ardakyo Vavrajati Nahiyatrapi Samaya Bajay Svita Dvitvam Tamaha Ilagolo Kamitiyami Vedanta Stay Santakshiti Viracharakati Paya Shri Guru Vastika prayers Kijay. The spiritual masters receiving benediction from the ocean of mercy, just as the cloud pours water on the forest fire to extinguish it, so the spiritual master delivers the materially afflicted world by extinguishing the blazing fire and material existence. I offer my respectful obeisance unto the lotus feet. Such spiritual master is an ocean of auspicious qualities. Chanting holy names, dancing ecstasy, singing and playing musical instruments. The spiritual master is always gladdened by the sanctified movement of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Because he is relishing the relish of pure devotion within his mind, sometimes his hair stands on end, he feels quivering his body, and tears flow from his eyes like waves. I offer my respectful obeisance unto the lotus feet of such spiritual master. The spiritual master is always engaged in the temple worship of Shri Shri Radha and Krishna. He also engages his disciples in such worship. They dress the deities in beautiful clothes and ornaments, clean their temple, and perform other similar worship of the Lord. I offer my respectful obeisance unto the lotus feet of such spiritual master. The spiritual master is always offering Krishna 4 kinds of delicious food, analyzes that which is liquid, drunk, and such. When the spiritual master sees that the devotees are satisfied by eating Bhagavad Prasada, he is satisfied. I offer my respectful obeisance unto the lotus feet of such spiritual master. Spiritual master is always eager to hear and chant about the unlimited consequent pastimes, erotica, madhava, and their qualities, names, and forms. The spiritual master aspires to relish these at every moment. I offer my respectful obeisance to Lotus Feet of such spiritual master. Spiritual master is very dear because he's expert at assisting gopis who at different times make different tasteful arrangements for the perfection of Radha and Krishna's conjugal loving affairs within the groves of Vrindavan. I offer my most humble obeisance to Lotus Feet of such spiritual master. Spiritual master is beyond as much the Supreme Lord because he's the most competent servant to the Lord. This is acknowledged in all revealed scriptures and followed by all authorities. Therefore, I offer my respectful obeisance to Lotus Feet of such spiritual master, who is a bona fide representative of Sri Hari Krishna. By the mercy of spiritual master, one receives the benediction of Krishna. Without the grace of spiritual master, one cannot make any advancement. Therefore, I should always remember and praise the spiritual master at least 3 times a day. I should offer my respectful obeisance to the Lotus Feet of my spiritual master, His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai, Srimad Bhagavatam Grantaraj Ki Jai. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Canto 3, Chapter 6, verse number 6. Hiranmaya sa Purusha Sahasra Parivatsaran Andakusha Uvasapsu Sarvasatvo Prabrimhitaha. Hiranmaya, the Garbhodakshayi Vishnu, who also assumes the Virat Rupa. Sa, he, Purusha, incarnation of Godhead. Sahasra, 1,000. Parivatsaran, celestial years. Anda Koshe, within the global universe. Uvasa, resided. Apsu, on the water. Sarva, Sattva, all living entities lying with him. Upabrimhita, so spread. Translation by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. The gigantic Virat Purusha, known as Hiranmaya, lived for 1,000 celestial years on the water of the universe, and all the living entities lay with him. Purport by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. After the Lord entered each and every universe as the Garbhodakshayi Vishnu, half of the universe was filled with water. The cosmic manifestation of the planetary systems, outer space, etc., which are visible to us, is only 1/2 of the complete universe. Before the manifestation of the universe, before the manifestation takes place, and after the entrance of Vishnu within the universe, there is a period of 1,000 celestial years. All the living entities injected within the womb of the Mahatattva are divided in all universes with the incarnation of Garbhodakshayi Vishnu, and all of them lie down with the Lord until Brahma is born. Brahma is the first living being within the universe, and from him all other demigods and living creatures are born. Manu is the original father of mankind, and therefore, in Sanskrit, mankind is called Manushya. Humanity, in different bodily qualities, is distributed throughout the various planetary systems. Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. The gigantic Virat Purusha, known as Hiranmaya, lived for 1,000 celestial years on the water of the universe, and all the living entities lay with him. So this is a amazing purport. It tells us it reveals a certain sequence in the process of creation, and we can see that in the human form of life, if we don't take it seriously and fall back into the consciousness evolutionary process. Evolution is not based on Darwin's theory, which is completely wrong. All the living entities are created, and all the different species are created in the beginning of time. But before the living entities come into their, let's say, their different bodies, there's a long, long period. First of all, they have to get the result of their karma, and a decision is made which body the living entity is going to have in the next life. Then they have to be trained to be functioning in such a body. So let's say a human being in their lifetime had the habits of a pig, which is basically eating stool. Right? So they eat stool in the form of hamburgers and hot dogs and pig's ears and liver of a cow, or horrible things. They're all stool. So because he's habituated to eating stool in the mode of ignorance, he's got to be trained up to accept the body of a pig in his next life, and that training takes time. It usually takes some months, up to 9 months. And then, but what is the training? Let's get that straight. The training is something like this. He's thrown into an ocean of stool, a cesspool, right? A gigantic cesspool. And at first, he's horrified because he had a human body before, and he was eating lemon meringue pie and this thing, ice cream, and other things. And now, the only choice is stool. So, after some time, he's obliged to eat. So he has no choice but to eat the stool. Eventually, he develops a taste for stool. See, the human being or a living entity can adapt to its environment. It might be hard at first, but eventually it becomes their culture, in a sense. So Eskimos have adapted to living in freezing cold weather all year round. They build their houses out of ice. Have you ever been in an Eskimo's house? I hope you never go. So they make it out of ice, and they live in those conditions, right? How they do it, I don't know, but they do it. If you ever happen to visit an Eskimo in wintertime, and he'll invite you into this house, and he'll share his wife with you. That's their custom. So if you're dumb enough to go up there and in the freezing cold weather and get into his ice house, he'll share his wife with you, because you've done something extraordinary. Anyway, that's not our culture, of course. It's complete nonsense, but that's what's happening. So the person now is in an ocean of stool, and they develop a taste for it. And they can tell, this stool is coming from a man who was eating Hyderabad biryani. I can tell it. I can taste the spices in it. See, it becomes an expert in stool, So when he's trained up, then he takes birth in the body of a pig. So there's a training period to adapt to the body, and sometimes it can be a very long process, or sometimes it's a rather quick process. It depends. But we see now we're getting a lot more information in this purport. It says, after the Lord entered each and every universe as the Garbhodaksha Vishnu. So that's the second expansion of Vishnu. The first is Mahavishnu, and the second is Garbhodaksha Vishnu. So Mahavishnu is reposing on the ocean, and of the transcendental ocean, and he is exhaling. When he exhales, every molecule of his exhalation is a universe, and there's billions of them. And then Garbhodakshaya Vishnu enters into each universe and fills it halfway with water, and then he reclines, and Lakshmi is there, and this lotus flower, this lotus stem grows out of his umbilical cord area, and it goes up, and the flower opens up, and Brahma appears, the first living entity. Okay, so it says, after the Lord entered each and every universe as Garbhodakshaya Vishnu, half of the universe was filled with water. The cosmic manifestation of the planetary systems, outer space, etc., which are visible to us, is only half of the complete universe. So this is the first shocking realization. What we're seeing is only half the material universe. Before the manifestation takes place, and after the entrance of Vishnu within the universe, there is a period of 1,000 celestial years. That's a huge amount of time. It runs into millions of human years. All the living entities injected within the womb of the Mahatattva are divided in all universes with the incarnation of Garbhodakshaya Vishnu. So there's not just one universe, there's an infinite number of universes. And there's not just living entities in one universe, there's living entities in every universe, right? So just imagine the scale of this. It's unbelievable. It's beyond our imagination, right? And all of them lie down with the Lord until Brahma is born. So everybody is waiting for the manifest or an active form of the material creation. And it can take a long, long time of waiting. Right? That's why we shouldn't waste 1 second of human life. That's why we should not waste 1 second of human life. It's the only chance we have of getting out of this vicious cycle. Otherwise, you get stuck for thousands, maybe millions of lifetimes, 8.4 million lifetimes, right? Before you can come to the human species again. And look at all these waiting periods you have to go through. And then there's the unmanifest state of matter, which lasts the same amount of time as the day of Brahma, which is like 8 trillion some years, right? Just imagine what a disaster it is if we don't use the human form properly. We fall back into this very, very arduous, difficult process of gradual elevation again to the human form. So it says, all of them lie down with the Lord, I mean all the jivas, until Brahma is born. Brahma is the first living being within the universe, and from him all other demigods and living creatures are born. Manu is the original father of mankind, and therefore in Sanskrit, mankind is called Manusya. Humanity in different bodily qualities is distributed throughout the various planetary systems. So, people have different bodily qualities based on the modes of material nature, sattva, rajas, and tamas. So, a lot of things are revealed in this verse and purport. Like, first of all, Brahma is the first living being within the universe, and from him all other demigods and living creatures are born. Manu, on the other hand, is the original father of mankind, and therefore in Sanskrit, mankind is called Manusya. So we see this whole cascade of hierarchical structuring, and so many demigods are there. In fact, if you study Sammamish, how many people you think are necessary to manage this one small city called Sammamish? What do you think?
50.
No. You're far off.
Very close to 1,000 now.
Between 500 to 1,000, because you have to count the police, you have to count the firemen, you have to count the politicians, you have to count all the secretaries, all the maintenance people, you have to count the inspectors. I mean, it's a big number, right? Just to manage this little city. Now, based on that, how many people do you think it takes to manage the universe? What do you think?
Millions.
330 million devatas, or what do you call it? I think it's 300 lakhs, something like that. It's a huge number, right? So that's how many demigods there are, and there are different levels of demigods, you see. So we see how stupid the scientists are and the philosophers. You know, they can't even figure out this people on every planet in the universe, right? They're still debating that, you know, and on top of all that, the dumbest people in the world are the PhD Nobel Prize winning people. I'm going to give you an example of one today. His name is Jacques Monod, M-O-N-O-D, J-A-C-C-Q-U-E. You can look up in the internet. So Jacques Monod got a Nobel Prize for the research he did. But he's known for his research as Nobel Prize, but more than that, he is known for a book that he wrote, which is called La Chance et la Nécessité, or as we say, translate in English, Chance and Necessity. Right? Now, what is that book about? That book is about how there's no God and the world self-organized. Nature self-organizes. So let's hear what it says. Charles Darwin proposed the theory that evolution of live organisms is based on random variation and natural selection. Okay, random variation means that that atoms bump into each other randomly, and by some accidental, fortuitous collision, it developed one cell amoeba. Right. So it's a random process. It's not organized. There's no intelligence behind it, and it just happened by it. Means survival of the fittest. These were the two bases on which Darwin wrote his book, The Origin of Species. He didn't know about genetics yet, right? So these are the two basic points that he made. There's random variation and natural selection, which means there's no God involved, right? It's natural, okay? And then the species that are most adaptable to their climate or their environment, they survive, and the ones that are not so adaptable, they die out. Of course, all the species are still existing. None of them have died out, right? But this was his theory. Okay. So now it says, Jacques Monod, in his classic book, Chance and Necessity, published 45 years ago, presented his thesis, that means his speculation. When I say thesis, it's actually a speculation, right? His thesis that the biosphere does not contain a predictable class of objects or events, but constitutes a particular occurrence compatible indeed with the first principles, but not deductible from those principles. Now, see, as soon as they want to explain what the theory is, they get into blah, 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 words, right? You're not quite sure what they mean by all those words, right? You notice how it says, he presented his thesis that the biosphere, now what's a biosphere? That basically says the Earth, right? The Earth does not contain a predictable class of objects or events. Now this is nonsense, because look up right now, I'm going to show you how this is complete nonsense. Look up right now the basic principles that science is based on. The basic principles that science is based on. What does it say? The first principle is, go ahead.
Hare Krishna Maharaj, it says, the test of all knowledge is experiment. The principle of science, the definition, almost is the following. The test of all knowledge is experiment. Experiment is the sole judge of scientific truth.
But the first principle of experiment, yeah, but the first principle is nature functions in an orderly way. Therefore, it's predictable. This idiot is saying, what? The biosphere, the world, is therefore essentially unpredictable. In his book, Monod expounded at length on the conflict between science and religion. No, before that it says, the biosphere does not contain a predictable class of objects or events, but constitutes a particular occurrence. That means some accident happened. That's gobbledygook language to say there's an accident that happened in nature, right? Constitutes a particular occurrence compatible indeed with the first principles, but not deductible from those principles. So what's the first principles? He doesn't say. The first principle is that everything is random. He says that. He says everything is random. There's no organization. So what does it say, the first principle of science, that science is based on, besides the idea of experiment? Experiment is a technique. It's not a first principle.
The reference I found, first one is pose significant questions that can be investigated empirically.
That's the scientific method. It's not the first principle.
Okay.
First principle is that nature works in an orderly way. If nature was chaotic, there couldn't be any science, because everything would be unpredictable. You see my point?
Yeah, I read one more.
Yeah.
The principle of the uniformity of nature.
Go ahead. That's it.
That's it. Okay.
What's it say?
The second one is...
Okay, what does it mean by uniformity of nature?
Means predictable, right?
Yeah, it's predictable, right? That's how they do science, because they're already existing laws of nature, right? This idiot is saying, number one, the biosphere, meaning, let's look that word up, B-I-O-S-P-H-E-R-E, biosphere. This biosphere does not contain a predictable class of objects or events, but constitutes a particular occurrence. So he's saying it's completely disorganized, it's chaos, but one accident happened. He calls it a particular occurrence. What is it? It's compatible indeed with the first principles. What's his first principle? That the universe is unpredictable, but not deductible from those principles. So you could not deduct that something was organizes by itself from a chaotic, ununiform universe, right? So basically, he's just double talking here. It's just nonsense. He's saying that everything is unpredictable in nature, but some particular thing happened, an accident happened, that is still unpredictable, but And you cannot logically infer that such a thing can happen, but it happened. That's what he's saying. You see how they're very tricky with the way they use language. Very, very tricky people. And most people don't understand what they're saying, right? The biosphere is therefore essentially unpredictable. This is nonsense. So he doesn't want to contradict his first principle that everything is unpredictable. So the way he does it is by juggling the words. The biosphere does not contain a predictable class of objects or events, but constitutes a particular occurrence, compatible indeed with the first principles that everything's unpredictable, but not deductible from those principles. In other words, there was a complete accident that happened, and a one-cell amoeba was born. That's what he's saying. The biosphere is therefore essentially unpredictable. So he keeps saying the word unpredictable because that means that there was no God. Nobody organized it. It just was existing like that, and there's no rhyme or reason or rationale. But yet this accident happened, and by some miracle, but he doesn't want to use that word, and one cell was born. In his book, Mono expounds at length on the conflict between science and religion. He saw religion as a collection of primitive myths that had been blown to shreds by science. In other words, he's saying we have shown that all these religions, they're all bogus, that they're just making up stories, but we've proven with science that their stories are nonsense. Wait a minute, though. His thesis is nonsense. He himself is a nonsense, right? So, at every turn, Mono emphasized the role of chance in human existence. Now, everything's happened by randomness and chance, right? The role of chance in human existence, an idea that is antithetical to essentially every religious doctrine that places humans as some inevitable intention of a creator. There it is, right? So Mono was a demon, and he was completely against religion, and he did everything to support Darwinism, which is a nonsense theory, and he did it with juggling words, not with science. Where is the experiment of creating a one-cell amoeba from matter? You tell me. They never did it. Remember what Sanskriti said? She said that they don't know how the first cell appeared, but after that, using Darwinism, they know everything else after that. And basically, he's doing the same thing, too. He's saying, look, everything's by accident, and because of the randomness and the possibility over a long period of time that an accident could happen, it happened. But the basic principle that everything is chaos cannot be changed by this, because they say the exception does not change the rule. The rule is that everything is unpredictable, and there was one exception. And you could not figure out that such a thing would happen because it's not rational, but it happened. And now we can use Darwinism to explain the rest of the story. So you see, scientists are not really interested in the origin of things. They're interested in the middle, right? After there's the origin, then they'll say anything about the origin, just like he did, right? Now in the middle, they use Darwinism. That's their main thing, which has never been proved also. But they claim they found this fossil and that fossil. But if you read the book that our devotees wrote, showing how the so-called proof of the fossils was bogus. They accepted one or two fossils and rejected all the fossils that proved that there was not that the same species existed in the past as they do today. So they had to reject that. So it's called selective research. They select only those things that point to their thesis, and they reject everything else that debunks it. That's their trick. So they collect a lot of data. Anything that looks like it supports their point, they'll accept. Anything that really undermines their point, they reject it and they ignore it, and they don't bring it to the people. So what did the two devotees do that wrote the book? They analyzed all the data, and then they explained that here's a large part of the data that they got from observations and experiments that they hid, and they only took a very small part of it that seemed to suggest that their theory may be true. It doesn't validate it. It seems to say. This is their trick, this selective choice of data. Right? Like, for example, if you think that the world started by an accident, so anything that might in any way support that point, you would accept. And anything that shows that the world was already organized and by a higher intelligence, you would reject it. Right? So what do they reject? They reject, Darwin and Jacques Monod reject the idea that nature is already organized and functioning in an orderly way. Whereas scientists today, because if that is a fact, there would not be science. So scientists today say the first principle is nature's functioning in an orderly way. I'll show you where that's said, because we've gone over this before in the past. Okay, so here we see, at every turn, Monod emphasized the role of chance in human existence. So he's saying, in every situation, things are happening randomly. There's nothing organized. Right? An idea that is antithetical to essentially every religious doctrine that places humans as some inevitable intention of a creator. There it is. He's completely rejecting the existence of God. He's completely rejecting that there's any real meaning to human life. We're just an accident. Okay. So, and because of that nonsense, Prabhupada in the previous day verse, he came out clearly and said that therefore, an eternal form of the Lord exhibited in spiritual sky. It is a material manifestation of the Lord. The archer, it says, the elements of cosmic creation are all matter and have no potency to increase in volume unless entered into by the Lord in his plenary portion as Paramatma. This means that matter does not increase or decrease unless it is spiritually touched. Matter is a product of spirit and increases only by the touch of spirit. The entire cosmic manifestation has not assumed its gigantic form by itself. So he's debunking right there Darwinism. He's debunking Jacques Monod and all the other demons that say that everything started randomly. As wrongly calculated by less intelligent persons. As long as spirit is within matter, matter can increase as needed. But without the spirit, matter stops increasing. So this is logic. This is based on observation and experiment. You can experiment and put matter, like all the chemicals, in one bottle and wait and see what happens. Nothing is going to happen, right? they're not going to create a human being. You can mix it up like this, and you can heat it up, and you can make it cold, whatever you want. It's not going to create a human being over time. So it's not an accidental process. Okay. So that's Jacques Monod. Now, I want to talk about something else today. This is very interesting because, let me go back here. Yeah. This argument between science and religion has been going on for a long, long time. It's nothing new. It's not something today. It's been going on since the early Middle Ages, maybe even before that, even during the time of the Greeks in the West. So there's a very interesting book that was written by Johann Wolfgang von Goethe, and it's called Faust, F-A-U-S-T. Faust is this mythical personality. And what is it all about? Well, it's about a man who is not satisfied with limitations that he has in life. So he's not satisfied with religion that he sees as too limiting. You can't have illicit sex, you can't eat meat, you can't engage in gambling, you can't engage in this speculation. Even the Christians, they rejected speculation, right? You had to believe in the Bible. So he was very frustrated by that, right? And then this is not a real person. This is a storied person, right? So he became interested in mysticism and magic. So in the Middle Ages, there was a lot of magic going on. It's called alchemy, how to turn base metals into gold. And they tried every different way to do it. They wanted to, why? Because they wanted to manufacture their own money, right? And be rich, and then use that money for sense gratification. So Faust, he becomes interested in magic, and he starts associating with people who are into magic, right? And eventually they tell him that, look, what you want basically is become very rich and use your money for sense gratification. So they said, you have to talk to the devil for that. So he learns how to augur up or talk to the devil, right? So the devil, or Satan, sends one of his top devotees to talk to Faust about getting his desires. And he makes a deal. He's simply repeating what the devil tells him, and that is that for 24 years he can get anything he wants. The devil will give it to him. But after 24 years, he owns Faust's soul and body. So Faust agrees. And he starts getting everything he wants, money and sense gratification, food and beautiful houses and beautiful women. Anything he wants, he gets, right? But as it's getting closer to 24 years, he gets extremely frustrated and fearful, right? And he's trying to find a way to stop it from happening. So this is a very famous story. This was written, I think the 15th or 16th century. And then many, many films have been made, and many, many variations of the story have been told over time. Because it's an interesting story, But what is the story? It's still going on today. Kids are taught that there's no God. There's just science and reason and logic, and you can get everything you want through science, right? So you can become an AI or IT guy and start off with $150,000 a year, and it'll keep going up, right? So that's why kids are attracted to it, because there's a big promise of sense gratification. It's like making a deal with the devil, just like Faust, right? He made a deal with the devil. The devil guaranteed, for 24 years, you'll have all the sense gratification you want. But then you belong to me. So what happens, it's a very interesting little book. And what happens to Faust? He starts trying to find ways to stop this, because, he wants to continue having sense gratification, but he doesn't want to belong to the devil, who will torture him. He wants to, but that's what happens. And it's a sad story. Right? Okay, so you see, the Christians, this was one of their stories that they used for preaching, the story of Faust. And it's been around for a long time, at least 500, 600, 700 years. But this is what's happening today. Kids are convinced that if they become an AI or IT guy or this thing or that thing, or stockbroker or a drug dealer, they'll have a lot of money and have a lot of sense gratification. So it doesn't matter whether you do it legally or illegally. So you see, in ancient times, the materialists, they were much smarter. So you have the materialists who said, whatever you do, beg, borrow, or steal ghee and use it to cook, and you'll be happy. Now, he didn't say, kill a cow and eat the cow, because he was a materialist, right? But he had enough sense to say, don't get involved with killing cows, but you can get ghee, and whatever you cook in ghee will make you happy, right? So the materialists long ago, they were much smarter than the materialists today. You see, they didn't recommend killing cows. They knew that would be a disaster. But you could get the blood of the cow by drinking the milk, and you can get ghee, which makes even the worst vegetables taste good if you cook them in ghee. So we see how this whole culture has changed now. It's good. It's just gone down. At least in the past, there was some wisdom, even amongst the materialists. Today, there's no wisdom at all. They're idiots like this Jacques Monod, like Elon Musk, and all these people. Just because they make a lot of money, people think, oh, they're very smart. But actually, they're very stupid. Elon Musk has, I think, 9 illicit children with different wives. Did you know that? Yeah. He's been married a couple of times, but he's had kids with other women. And he doesn't stop doing it, because he's got a lot of money. So and Einstein did the same thing. He was philandering. He cheated on his wife, his first wife, and then cheated again. So you see, underneath all of it is sex. That's why people are in the material world. That's why all of us came to the material world. And we cannot stop it unless you take up Krishna consciousness seriously. Now, the Catholic Church, they forbid their priests to get married. So what do the priests do? They secretly engage in sex. I mean, there's so many cases of it. It's not just, the priests in the United States. All over the world, where there are Catholic priests, there has been child molestation, there's been homosexuality and things like that. It's even somewhat in ISKCON also. So this is a tragedy. However, it goes on because people do not want to follow the regulative principles strictly. Okay, and the reason we came to the material world is to have sense gratification, independent of Krishna. There's no doubt about it. And there's verses that validate it. We didn't come to eat meat. We didn't come to gamble. We didn't come to intoxicate. We came to have sense gratification. And then as soon as you engage in illicit sex, the other things follow automatically, right? Okay, so we'll stop right there. Are there any questions?
One quick question, Maharaj.
Yes.
So we have there are infinite number of universes as well as the infinite number of Brahmas, and one Brahma in each universe. Is that how
Yes.
it is? Okay.
Yes. And all the demigods also.
All the demigods
And all
also.
the jivas.
And also the Dakasai Vishnu also infinite number, or is
He what?
Garbhodakasai
Vishnu.
Garbhodakasai Vishnu, yeah. Also infinite number.
Yeah.
Okay.
And even more than that. Shirodaksha Vishnu, there's even more. Because it's present in every atom and present in the heart of every living entity. You see, it's gigantic. You can't even imagine it. And then the lifespan of Brahma, unbelievable. 4 trillion, more than 4 trillion years. It's one day in his life. It's just one day, and the night is equal. And then he lives 100 years. Just imagine. That's 311 trillion that he lives. That's bigger than the deficit of the United States, which is only like $30 trillion. It's nothing. It's 311 trillion years that he lives. Yeah.
And when we say half of the universe was filled with water,
Yes.
Can we correlate this water is the water in the ocean and the water in the vapor, like a humidity? How do we think of when we mention
Clouds are water,
this? Okay.
right?
Yeah, clouds to water.
Yeah. Okay, now, where does it say that all the species are born immediately? 9th chapter, 8th verse. It says, the different species of life are created immediately along with the universe. There it is, right there. 9th chapter, 8th verse. Men, animals, beasts, birds, everything is simultaneously created because whatever desires the living entities had at the last annihilation are again manifested. It is clearly indicated here by the word abasam that the living entities have nothing to do with this process. It's all controlled by Krishna and the Devas. The state of being in their past life, in the past creation, is simply manifested again, and all this is done simply by his will, by Krishna's will. This is the inconceivable potency of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And after creating different species of life, he has no connection with them. The creation takes place to accommodate the inclinations of the various living entities, and so the Lord does not become involved with it. Yeah, everything depends on our desires. If we want to do nonsense, okay, Krishna will help us do nonsense, and you get the results. You get the consequences. Right? But if we want Krishna, then Krishna helps us come back to him. So 9th chapter, 8th verse. There it is. That the different species of life are created immediately along with the universe. Wow. So now we're getting a lot of specific information about the universe and about the creation, how it takes place. The spiritual world is always existing. There's no creation of it, right? But the material world is created and then annihilated and created and annihilated, created and annihilated. As long as people want to do nonsense, it keeps going on. But Krishna keeps speaking Bhagavad Gita. He sends his pure devotees. He's trying to do everything possible to bring people back because we were all with him originally. If we were not with Krishna originally, he would not spend the time to help us come back. See, it's just like if you have 3 kids, but one of them runs away, and you don't hear anything about that kid, for 20 years. And all of a sudden, somebody tells you, oh, I met him and he's living on the other side of the United States. Well, you would be interested. You want your kid back, right? He ran away, but he's still alive. You thought maybe he died. So you would be interested, because he might forget you, but you never forget him. So in that way, Krishna never forgets all the living entities that were with him originally. Although they're a minority, most of the living entities have never left Krishna. It's dumbbells like us that decided to walk away voluntarily and become subject to the laws of material nature. Haribol.
Maharaj, one more thing. So, in the process of the material creation, where would the Brahmajyoti would fall? Because where would Brahmajyoti fit into the process of material creation?
Now, the Brahmajyoti is spiritual. It's not material.
Okay.
Okay. But the Brahmajyoti is made up of infinite number of jivas, like you and me.
Yeah.
And these jivas enter in the material world through the Brahmajyoti that's reflected off of the sun and goes into the material world. Okay? So, but the Brahmajyoti itself is not material, it's spiritual. It's made up of an infinite number of jivas that are described. This is described in the Brahma Samhita. All right, if you want, I can show you where it explains that.
So the living entities get the name Brahman because we came from Brahmajyoti. The living entities came from Brahmajyoti.
Yeah, Brahman has different meanings. Brahman, right? It can refer to the entire material universe. It can refer to the Brahman effulgence, and it can also refer to the living entity. So it depends on the context that it's used.
Okay.
Right? So you have to read things in context.
Okay, got it.
Yeah. So that's if you go to the 13th chapter, let's look at that. One second. Let me just find where this is said. Brahman has different meanings. So, okay, 641. In the 13th chapter, it's a very important chapter. It says, there are three Brahman conceptions. This is 13th chapter, verse number 3. There are three Brahman conceptions. Prakriti is Brahman as the field of activities. The jiva, individual soul, is also Brahman and is trying to control material nature. And the controller of both of them is also Brahman, but he is the factual controller. There it is. So it refers to Brahman effulgence, which is part and parcel of Krishna. It refers to the jiva who's trying to control nature, and it refers to nature or prakriti, which is the field of activity. So it depends on the context in which the word is used. Right? So 13.3. Yeah.
I have a question. Okay, actually, once annihilation happen, annihilation, for the remaining whatever the jivas, because it goes through like Satyuga, Treta Yuga, Dwapar Yuga, and Kali Yuga. They didn't get liberated, but they're still there at the time of annihilation. Whoever left out, so what happens to them actually?
They're killed by Kalki. Kalki comes and kills them.
Okay.
All of them. And then they start another Satya Yuga.
But then, no, the souls are not killed. But anyway, the souls will be there, right? Souls won't be killed. The jivas who are the souls, which are not liberated.
No, you cannot have Satya Yuga with a huge population of demons. So they're all killed, and then they take bodies based on their karma. But in Satya Yuga, almost everyone is a devotee.
Yeah, yeah.
Right.
So that is kind of a puzzle to me because
No, but the demons, they're going to fall down into this animal species and insect species.
in Satya Yuga also.
What?
In Satya Yuga also.
No, and when they're killed by Kalki, right? So, well, they're benefited in one way because Kalki is the incarnation of God. So they probably go to the Brahma Jyoti.
Oh, okay.
Right.
So that's what they don't go into again cycle, because after 4 yugas also you left out, means you didn't get liberated from Satya Yuga, you get taking reincarnation again and again, rebirth again and again. It's Kali Yuga. At the end of Kali Yuga, everything should be annihilation, and still you didn't get liberated.
Don't use the word annihilation. It's reabsorbed into the body of Mahavishnu.
Okay.
Right. So when everything is reabsorbed in the body of Mahavishnu, everything goes into this
Okay. Yeah.
Unconscious state, waiting for the next creation. And in the next creation, people come out and assume different bodies based on their previous karma. Right? Yeah. Okay, well, we'll have... So now you know all the species, all the different bodies or types of bodies are created in the beginning. And the evolution is evolution of consciousness, not bodies. That's Hare Krishna. Yes. Yes, you can. You can hug them. From 10:30 to about, well, now because of daylight savings, it's 6 o'clock, 10:30 to 6. Yeah, in summertime it's open to 10. We're open every day. But I'd prefer you call me to give me a heads up that you're going to come, and I'll make sure there's someone there to help you because you haven't come before. And so you'll need help to, be close to the cows. So many people come and feed the cows and also pet them and also brush them. Yeah. And these are desi cows. These are purebred desi cows, Gujarati gear cows. Yeah, you can call me 1 hour before. Yeah. And by the way, you should be like your mother. Okay. Okay, very good. Thank you. Hare Krishna. Okay. She said, "Oh, my mother likes cows, and she wants." In other words, she's implying that she doesn't like cows herself, or she's not like her mother. So that's why I told her you should be like your mother. Go ahead.
Shri Guru Charana Padma Kevala Bhagati Sadma
Shri Guru Charana Padma Kevala Bhakti Sadma
बंधमुहि सावधान माते
Bandhumui savadana mate
जहरा प्रसादे बाय ए भवा तोरिया जाय
Janara prasade evamatoriya
कृष्ण प्राप्ति हो जहाँ होय बे
Krishna Prati Hoya
गुरु मुख पद्मा वाक्य चिते कोरिया क्या अरुणा कोरी हो माने आशा श्री गुरु चरणे रति ऐसे उत्तमा गति जय प्रसाद पूरे सर्वा आशा चक्षुदान दिलो जय जन्मे जन्मे प्रभु से दिव्य ज्ञान हृदय प्रकाशित प्रेम भक्ति जहाँ होते अविद्या विनाश जाते
भक्ति जहाते अविद्या विनाश जाते
वेद गाय जहाँ रचरित श्री गुरु करुणा सिंधु आधम जनारा बंधु लोके नाथ लोके राजीवाना हाँ हाँ प्रभु करो दया देहो मोरे पद छाया बेजास घुषुक त्रिभुवाना प्रभुपाद पतित पवाना जयो प्रभु पदा जयो प्रभु पदा जयो प्रभु पदा जयो प्रभु पदा नमो विष्णुपदाय कृष्ण पृष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्ति वेदांत स्वामीति नामिने नमस्ते Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Pashata Deshatarine Jayo Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadara Shivasadi Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Nitai Gaura Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Nitai Gaura Hari Bol. Srila Prabhupada ki jai.
Jaya Vishnupad Paramahansa Parivajika Statara Satarashi Shri Srimadi's Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Goswami Maharaj Srila Prabhupada ki jai Anantakoti Vaishnava Vrinda ki jai Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur ki jai Prem Shri Gaur Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shri Vasani Gaur Bhaktivinoda ki jai Shri Shri Radha Krishna Gopinath Sankuta Radha Kundi Giri Govardhana ki jai Shri Vrindavan Dham ki jai Shri Mayapura Dham ki jai Jagannath Puri Dham ki jai Tulasi Devi ki jai Bhakti Devi ki jai Ganga Maya ki jai Jamuna Maya ki jai Samaveda Bhaktivinoda ki jai Nitai Gaura Premananda all glories to Samaguru all glories to Samaguru all glories to Samaguru all glories to Shiguru all glories to Srila Prabhupada Patita Pavana ki jai Gaura Premananda Haribol Haribol Haribol. The lotus
Feet of our spiritual master, which can attain the pure devotional service. I bow down to the lotus feet by great honor and reverence.
by
His grace one can cross the ocean of material suffering and obtain the mercy of Krishna. I only wishes to have my consciousness purified by the words emanating from his lotus mouth. Attachment to the lotus feet is perfection that fills all desires. He opens my darkened eyes and fills my heart with transcendental. He is my Lord, birth after birth. From him the static emanates, and by him ignorance is destroyed. The Vedic scriptures sing of his character. our spiritual master, yours in mercy, and the friend of the poor, Lord and master of the devotees. O Master, be merciful unto us. Give us the shade of your lotus feet. Your fame is spread all over the three world. We take shelter of your lotus feet. Srila Prabhupada ki jai.
Hari Bol. Nama Om Vishnu. Swami Nityanamade Namaste.